What if I told you that you're sitting on an extra 6 figures a year and you don't even realize it? Most wholesalers throw away leads and great leads every single day because they think the only way to make money is with cash buyers. But what if there was a way to double or even triple your deals with the same type of marketing without spending a single dollar more on marketing? That's exactly what we're covering today. It's called Novations, and this strategy is a game changer in 2025. The investors and wholesalers that master this turn dead leads into big deals and profits without taking any risk dealing with cash buyers or changing anything about their marketing. In this video, you'll learn the step-by-step process to turn dead leads into profitable Novation deals, and also how to use the MLS, real estate agents, and retail buyers to close more deals with less work. We're also going to cover the biggest mistakes that most wholesalers do with Novations and how to avoid them, and why 2025 is the year that you need to capitalize this before everyone starts doing this. And by the end of this video, you'll have a blueprint and how to scale your wholesaling business to even more, multiple 7 figures per year, by just adding this strategy. If you don't know who I am, my name is Esteban Andrade, and I have helped over 400 people scale their business with paid advertising. And we also recruit top talent around the globe in your business. And in this masterclass, I ended up doing it with a guy called Rich Wonders. And this guy has mastered the art of Novations. We're gonna go dive deep into this, and you're gonna love it because we actually explain everything step by step, detail by detail. And I know that Rich has been closing multiple 6 figures per month just doing this strategy with Novations, and he's the best to learn it from. So let's dive into this.
All
What up?
right.
What up? Rich Wonders. I'm in downtown Phoenix and doing deals nationwide.
Awesome. So we got a few people registered, maybe over 30. At this point, there is still a few more people to come in. So we're gonna let them in the next 2 minutes. We're gonna let people in for 5 minutes maybe. And in the meantime, I love to kind of introduce everyone that is in here. A guest that we have, Richard Wonders. He's a guest of the REIpreneurs community right here. So a community that is, we have everything to give to real estate entrepreneurs, and we hold back. Okay, so every guest that we put in here, we do our best to as much as possible. If you guys have heard of the podcast, Online Hustlers podcast, at least the last season, when I ask questions, I extract a lot. But in this part, we're gonna do a masterclass about innovations or the future of wholesaling. And you guys may be asking yourself, like, I mean, is that really the future of wholesaling? Well, if you can skin the cat in many ways, or if you can make slushy and smoothie, or maybe an energy drink out of lemonade, why can't you do also a lot of different things out of the sellers that you come in, right? Uh, if you can think of many different products that you have for your sellers, this is one of them. And this is one that makes a lot of money. And this is one that is systemized. This is one that is very easy or simple to understand. Not necessarily easy, but very simple to understand. And I'm excited because Richard Wonders, I guess if his last name is actually Wonders, or he just says that he does wonders, he's been doing wonders with this specific product that we have for sellers, right? For homeowners. All right, Mika, we got MA, NC, Tampa. Drop in your market in the chat, hailing from Arizona. Actually, Richard, oh, there you go. I was gonna say Richard is in Arizona. Yeah, there you go. His last name is actually King. Yes. King Wonders. Justin, South Carolina, or yeah, South Carolina, or Southern California, or no, California. And Houston, Texas. Awesome. So we have so far 20 people I've kind of introduced Richard a little bit. I'm going to post on the Facebook group so that everyone can come in and send the last message. So if the team can send the last message to everyone, that would be great. But for now, I'm going to take Richard to take over. Can you please tell us who you are and like what kind of problem you've been able to solve for yourself and for homeowners, and now the things that you're currently doing, so that everyone can understand the process. Maybe you want to explain the A to Z, the way that you do it. I'm not sure if maybe you have some slides prepared. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can make it where I can share screen, I'll share screen in a second. I'll just give you guys a quick rundown. So first off, I want to thank everybody for hopping on here because I know your time is extremely valuable, right? We're taking time away from our businesses to do this. So I want to make sure I can give as much tangible value as humanly possible. So I'll give you a quick background on me real quick. Then I'm going to jump right into it. It's not going to be a motivational speech or some long drawn out thing. I want to get right to the meat and potatoes because I know you guys are all active wholesalers. You're all doing deals. And yeah, I'll present like a little slide in a second, but quick rundown on me. I started wholesaling back in January 28th, 2019. I worked for a guy named Sean Terry for 2 years, who's kind of a wholesale OG. Someone I came across on YouTube. I had been selling vacuums for Kirby vacuums door to door for 9 years. I was a top Kirby salesman for whatever that's worth, right? And that's where I cut my teeth in sales. And I had my own Kirby office for a while, trained, probably over 1,000 people doing that, and really learned a lot about communication. The guy I worked for was doing a couple $1 million a year and was a top-notch guy, was one of my first mentors, right? And basically, I had maxed out that vertical, and I was essentially redlining a Prius at that point, right? And I saw one of my buddies traveling the world, doing all the cool stuff that I wish I was doing. I reached out to him, asked him what he was doing, and that's when I first found out about wholesale. So worked for Sean Terry for 2 years, ended up leaving there, and did my own thing for about 8 months. I was too immature. I, took my foot off the gas. I didn't work as hard for myself as I worked for someone else, but it ended up being the biggest blessing because I ended up having to get a job again. I worked for a guy named Corey Geary. That's where I first came across the concept of Novations. Okay. And this has completely transformed my life, my business, and the lives of many people. Right. So I'm going to do a quick, I'm going to screen share real quick. And I'm going to hop right into this.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So view slideshow. Yo, let me know. You can see that? We're good? Okay, cool. So the gist of what Novations are and the way we use it, I call it the Rainmaker method. Okay. So a Rainmaker is someone that takes high-level people, brings them all together for a specific project to achieve a common goal. Okay, so there's lots of ways to do Novation, just like there's lots of ways to wholesale, right? Some people do it as a fix and flip, partnering up with the seller. I'll be honest with you, that doesn't jive with my personality type. I like to be in and out. I like things that are clean. I like low risk and fast turnover and being able to provide value in a way that, involves just expertise and communication. So I'll kind of give you a quick rundown here. Okay. So if you guys have Instagram, check me out on Instagram. It's at Novation King. I post a ton of content that's all Novation related. Live calls, tips and tricks. I do Q&As. I really try to provide just value-based content on there. So it's at Novation King. There's a little thing you can click to if you're tech savvy where it'll take you right there. So let's first define the word novation. Okay, so novation is the substitute of a new contract in place of an old one. The way that it comes to play in this context is when we have a seller and then we have a retail buyer that's using a loan, the title company will perform what's called a novation, where it replaces our original AB contract with an A to C contract with the final end buyer, normally a retail buyer, and the seller. They sign directly, but basically they hold to the original terms with us with the A to B buyer. So we pay the closing costs, we pay realtors, we handle any concessions, any repairs that are required. We basically do all the heavy lifting and give the seller a hands-off white glove experience. Okay, so it's one of those things where I'm sure, right, coming across wholesale deals, especially if you're doing inbound type of marketing, or you're doing a high volume of marketing, you come across sellers all the time. And I don't know what that little beepy beep is. If there's any way to cut that out, por favor. I'm a little ADD, just throw me off. But okay, cool. So I lost my train of thought. Okay, so you come across deals, right, where the seller's motivated, and perhaps the house is in fantastic condition, or perhaps it's in somewhere in between fantastic and needs a total rehab, right? Because let's face it, with wholesaling, typically your avatar is going to be a distressed house with a distressed seller, because we need a significant discount to be able to sell it to our investor end buyer, who then is going to put money into it, risk their money, and earn a profit at the end. And we need enough room in there for us to also earn a significant margin. So there's certain deals where wholesaling, it makes perfect sense. It's the way to go, right? It's not fit for a retail buyer. But we have this huge spectrum of everybody in the in-between spot, right? Where maybe they're just in a personal situation. You know, some of these deals, and I'll show you in a minute, some of these deals, the people have only owned the house for a couple of years. You know what I mean? And, you know, there's divorces, there's foreclosures, losses of jobs, health issues, you know, all these different reasons why someone might want a hands-off experience and sell their house at a discount. And normally you either need to have a big bankroll where you can take these down yourself and wholesale them, or get a private money loan. But there's a lot of risk associated with that. And there's a lot of moving parts, especially with all the uncertainty in the world, right? To be holding a bunch of houses. You know, for me, I wouldn't sleep as well at night. Now, maybe some of you guys are mentally stronger than me, but I'm a big fan of low risk, right? So with this strategy, we can monetize these homes and provide a tangible value to the seller using our expertise. So people ask, well, why would I want to get into Novations? Well, several reasons. You can monetize leads that normally you would either have to just let go or try to refer out to agents for like a small referral fee. So, you know, you can take leads that you're already bringing in, and you now have a strategy to monetize them and provide value to the seller, value to the buyer, and, you know, have a higher closing rate. Secondly, there's bigger spreads. Okay. Now, of course, you can hit some fat wholesale deals. Not saying there's anything wrong with wholesaling. Honestly, I wholesale quite a bit still. And wholesaling is quicker and easier. But the fact of the matter is there's a lot of deals that aren't going to work as a wholesale, but will work as a novation. And we utilize the MLS and local agents. So the MLS, of course, is the biggest buyer pool known to man on planet Earth. Right. And, you know, a person that's planning on living in the house, we don't have to factor in them making money or rehabbing the house. So it's much more simple doing comparables, right? Because we can do an apple to apple comparison, and we don't have to factor in, well, how much is the rehab going to be? How much does the cash buyer need to make? Right. We can just look for similar properties and look how long it took to sell, and we can ascertain fairly easily what we think that the property might sell for on the market. Okay. Thirdly, with our sales process, you can be fully transparent with that. Okay. And there's a gray area in wholesaling, right? There's certainly a way to ethically wholesale, even if you're being somewhat vague and saying, hey, my potential partners, you know, my money people, there's a way to do it. But we all know there are wholesalers that literally just outright lie and say, yeah, I'm the cash buyer. And then they do a song and the dance behind the scene. With this, if you understand what the value proposition is that we're offering to them, it's three things, okay? It's certainty, peace of mind, and a hands-off experience. So the people that raise their hand and say yes to this, even though they're not going to articulate that to you. These are the core things that they're looking for. And this is why someone is going to go with this route rather than just interview a bunch of agents, fix up the house and list it on the market, which is what, 98% of people are going to do. This is the solution for people that are looking for a cash offer and they're banging their head against the wall because everyone's giving them 50 cents on the dollar. And they're looking for this. And a lot of times they get roped in to some BS where someone offers them too much money and then they can't complete the deal. So, if you have a dialed in sales process with this and you understand where all the landmines are and potential pitfalls, you can smoothly navigate through this and give them a 5-star experience where at the end, when they see how much money you make, they're not going to be upset with you because you delivered on your promises. You set the expectations from the beginning and you did everything that you said you would. And you gave them the certainty, the peace of mind, and the hands-off experience.
Rich, quick thing. I wanna make sure that I understand who here, everyone that has joined so far, is currently using Novations and who is not. So if you're using Novations and you feel like you haven't dialed in, press a number 1 and give me a number 1 in the chat. You're still not using Novations, or you don't have it dialed in, press a number 2. I want to know. There we go. Send number 2. If it's not dialed in, you're not doing it just yet. Okay. Cool. All right.
Awesome. So for the people that dropped a number 2, you'll find however many wholesale deals you're currently doing, this is not hype. You will easily at least double that in Novations with the same amount of marketing. So if you're doing 5 deals a month, you could be adding an additional 10 deals to your pipeline. This is not, it's not hype. Like there's, I've got like 380 people in my course of mentorship group right now. And, we've seen consistently these numbers of at least a doubling once we introduce this exit strategy. And especially if you're doing, high-level cold calling, social media ads, PPC ads, if you're getting high-quality leads, because high-quality leads, right, they're targeted for motivation. And the motivation is the most important thing. The condition of the house doesn't matter if the motivation is there, and we have a negotiation process to get it at the proper price where we're confident we can move the property. Okay, so what type of properties can you use with this strategy? Okay, so 2 months ago, we did a deal because normally you think of novation deals. People either think of houses you're fixing flipping or ones that are already move-in ready. However, we did a deal in Flagstaff, Arizona, which is a smaller town in northern Arizona. It's like a college town and there's a ski resort there, but a lot lower population than Phoenix. It was a 2.5 acre property with a mobile home that if you sneezed on it, it probably would fall over. It was missing walls, completely unlivable. Like the buyer basically just cleared it off. We bought that. We went under contract for $90,000. We sold it on market with a realtor that actually sold a property just like it down the street. Got it under contract in 3 days, and we made $90,000 on that deal. And so you can do it with vacant land. You can do it with crappy houses. You can do it with decent houses. And you can do it with luxury houses. And I'll tell you about another one that we actually made $104,000 on. That was in the gated golf community in Hampton, Georgia. I'll show you in the case study in a second. That one we just closed in November. So you can do cash only properties or move-in ready properties. And ideally, the move-in ready ones that we sell to retail buyers will pass FHA and VA inspection. If they don't, that's okay. But just understand, there's going to be more stringent guidelines that it's going to need to be funded. And you may either have to put some money in it yourself at some point or work with a partner that's willing to do that with you. Because with those, you can't just give a concession that's not meeting the guidelines. You know what I mean? You're going to have to bring it up to their standard in order for them to fund it, or you're just going to have to take a conventional loan where you can just do a concession on it. Okay. The second thing is the seller's going to need some time. Okay. If they need to sell it next week, this isn't going to work. Okay. Because we're going on market. if the buyer's using a loan, from the point it goes under contract with the third-party buyer, it's going to be about a 30-day process, generally speaking. Sometimes we can move a little quicker than that, but sometimes too, it does drag on a little bit, depending on how the lender works, how quick the appraisal gets in there, if there's repairs that are needed to pass inspection. So it's generally a 30-day would be a best case scenario to 60-day process from when you get the property under contract to when you get it closed. Okay. And people ask too, can you do this with on-market properties that are already on market? There may be some unicorn scenario where that will work, but generally speaking, I wouldn't advise that. All right. Because we'd be essentially taking a on-market property, pulling it off market, and then putting it back on market. So it's a hard value proposition if it's already on market. So direct to seller is definitely the way to go. And referrals and JV, oh my goodness. So I'll touch on this real quick. My entire business is joint ventures. So other wholesalers sending us deals, right? And we're doing multiple six figures a month and have been for quite some time now, probably for over a year. So if you have wholesale buddies, which most people in wholesaling do, this is a whole new revenue stream where you can take your buddies' dead leads, monetize them, where now it's a win-win for everybody. Seller gets their problem solved. Your buddy gets a check for a deal that they couldn't do anything with, and you get a free hot lead that you can just walk into and work your magic and be the hero and monetize it. So joint ventures are also an awesome extra revenue stream if you're already marketing, and you can solve some problems and get paid for that. Cool. So real quick, we're going to cover just traditional wholesaling. It says old school on here, but we'll call it legacy wholesaling, right? Normally you get the property under contract. You're skip tracing cash buyers, realtors, sending out text messages, emails, calling them. We're posting in Facebook groups. Then we have to set up the showings where, our potential partners are going in there. We're negotiating with the cash buyers directly, right? And then once we get the buyer under contract, then we either assign it or double close. Now, the issue is a few things. In smaller markets, right? There's not a huge pool of cash buyers, right? And the ones that are there, they're a big fish in a small pond. And especially if you're reaching out to them directly, right? They've got a lot of leverage, and it's hard to get those deals done. And especially if the property's kind of in between of total rundown, needs a full remodel, and sparkling, shiny new, ready to go. It's tough to monetize those deals. And normally a lot of people eventually just pass on those because it's not worth the headache, right? And the thing is, if you're going national or multiple markets and you don't already have an established buyer pool that you have relationships with, it's very labor intense doing this process, right? And you're calling people out of the blue, you're negotiating with them. It can get a little tricky. And normally with traditional wholesaling, it's not going to work with luxury properties unless you can get like a crazy discount, right? And, you've got a smaller pool on that end. It's normally only distressed. Also, when you're talking to the property owners, you don't really have anything that sets you apart from the other people that they're talking to other than your personality and your price, right? You don't really have a separate strategy that's going to give them a unique value add. Okay. Also too, you got cash buyers running through there. They can out you and blow up your spot. You say, oh yeah, I saw this on Facebook Marketplace. It's 190,000. What the heck? They told me it was 120. You know what I mean? So they can blow up your spot that way. And in traditional wholesaling, there can be some shenanigans. Hopefully no one in here is on that side of the fence, right? But there are some shenanigans involved where it's kind of tough because normally if you're completely transparent with them, it can blow up the deal. And then also the cash buyers you're dealing with are the most sophisticated people, right? They didn't get to the position of buying houses cash because they don't know what they're doing, right? They're savages. Let's face it. I know you guys are probably savages too, but it's, you're dealing with a very sophisticated buyer. You don't have very much leverage if you're in a smaller market. And, obviously last year, there was a lot more cash buyers than this year, the last 2 years, right? So a lot of the amateurs have left the scene, and now we just have the true savages left over. And with all the uncertainty in the world, they've got to buy at deep discounts interest rates are higher, right? So there's just a lot less motion and movement. Now, obviously, wholesaling still works, still a huge fan of it, but there's only going to be a small spectrum of the properties that are going to fit into that box. Okay. Now, this is what everybody asks. Well, yo, Rich, like, why would the seller want to do this though? I'm sure they know a realtor, right? Why wouldn't they just call a realtor? Why do they want to deal with us? Well, here's the thing. It's all about the value proposition that you present. Okay. And the reality of it is they don't want to deal with that situation. The people that are going to say yes for this, the reason they're looking for a cash offer is not because they don't know any realtors, is they don't want to go through that process mentally, emotionally, financially. They don't want to deal with it, right? And if they're cool with listing it on the market, they're probably not going to be a fit for this strategy, and they wouldn't be looking for a cash offer in the first place. So the reason that they agree to this is how we present the offer. And again, touching on it, certainty, peace of mind, and hands-off experience. They don't want to spend money. They don't want to interview a bunch of realtors. They don't want to have anyone that can fog up a mirror parading through their house at all days and all hours. So it's all about how we can present the value proposition to them. And that's how you can maximize your conversions. Because here's the thing, right? I've seen a lot of different novation pitches, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but like I've put a lot of time and energy in refining the pitch that we use. And we have an exact blueprint where we do the same thing over and over. It's a copy paste. And that's how we get consistent results. So normally, here's the normal pitch. Pitch them a cash offer. They say no. And you're like, hey, well, actually, we got this thing over here. It's called the blah, 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 where we take your property, we list it on the market and the open market, and, we find a retail buyer, and then we handle any repairs, and they pitch a whole process. Okay. Everybody that knows marketing, people don't care about processes, and it actually leaves them with more questions than answers. Okay. With us, we pitch a solution that they qualified for, and we don't do the swing and the miss on the cash offer. So whether I'm going to wholesale the property off market, or I know for a fact that it's destined for a retail buyer, I give the same pitch every single time. Okay. And my cash offer is a tentative pull away, where it's like, hey, Mr. Seller, I was telling you we are a creative real estate investment company. Although I was able to get a cash offer approved, to be perfectly honest, I don't think it's going to end up being the right fit for you based on our conversation. It ended up coming in much lower than where you were wanting to be. And yeah, the cash offer would have to be at $257,000. I know that's probably not going to work. However, I do have good news. Okay. We have a separate program that's called the concierge service. Now, I didn't go into detail about this initially because this is actually one of the most difficult ones for us to get qualified, because they're very strict on their criteria. But after everything you said, I was thinking in the back of my head, just hoping we could get this approval. I was very excited when I got a full approval. Let me explain how it works. Okay. You get all the features and benefits of a cash offer, meaning you don't have to fix anything. You don't have to interview any agents. You don't have to pay fees, commissions, closing costs. What we do is, from doing so many deals in the state of Texas or whatever state they're in, we have all the tools, systems, resources, staff, expertise, where if a property comes across our desk and it's not a match for us, rather than just saying thanks but no thanks, we actually can use our team and our expertise, where we play matchmaker, and we actually resell our contract to a third-party buyer and negotiate a fee with the buyer. So it's a hands-off, white glove experience where we deliver the result on a silver platter. Now, I'm going to explain all the details. I have everything written up in black and white. It's a boom, sell the sizzle pitch, and then we run them through the paperwork and assume the sale. And when we're running them through the paperwork, we hit the price. We don't skip a beat. We keep scooting them through there, and that's when they learn about MLS, loans, all the nitty-gritty details, but in their mind, they've already committed. So we sell the sizzle to emotionally pitch the result, and we pitch the certainty, we pitch the all the results that they're looking for. Then we explain the details to justify it. So it's very important, right? You have to be ethical, but you also have to realize, hey, look, sales and communication and human nature, you need to optimize all of that to get the highest conversion. Because the desperate people, you'll convert with a crappy sales pitch, and you'll convert them. Yeah, they just need their problem solved. But it's all the in-between people. If you have a dialed in pitch that you can do yourself and teach to your people, then you can get the most consistent results, right? Because it raises up the emotions, and then the takeaway. I mean, there's a lot to it. I'm not going to, I want to save room for questions, but that's the gist of the pitch.
Yeah, that's great. I do have a question for you. So before you do the entire pitch and offer, obviously, what would be what difference, or what's different during the discovery process, during the discovery call, compared to like wholesaling?
So we use a 3-phase process. So the discovery phase, this is our mission in the discovery phase. We want to set the stage as empathetic professionals that are just looking to gather all the information that we can. I always position myself as a glorified information gatherer, right? And I set the stage early. There's a line I use on every call that's, hey, Mr. Seller, before we get started, just so you know, I work with a creative real estate investment group. We specialize in speed and convenience and making win-win scenarios. Now, if we end up being a match, I give you my word, I'm going to do everything to make it simple, easy for you. And we really try to design our process around your needs. If for whatever reason, if it's not a match, no problem at all. Not here to give you a hard time or twist your arm. We'll part ways as friends. And if there's any way I can help you to try to point you in the right direction, I'll definitely do that. Does that sound fair? Boom. So we set the stage, and the whole part of the discovery call, there's no friction. It's all about gathering information, being empathetic, and leading them down the road where we can learn about the condition, what their actual issues are, what they're trying to avoid, what they're trying to go towards. So we purposely don't butt heads with them. And especially if you have high quality leads, right? If you're getting Facebook ad leads, you're getting PPC, you can't hammer these people over the head, and even cold call leads, right? If you're paying all these money for leads, you want to give them a chance to open up before you qualify or disqualify them. Because especially people that are in pain, sometimes they're difficult to work with, right? And I'm real big on being a professional, being courteous, and just being a general good person. So it's a very low friction process. Phase 2, we call the anchor phase. Okay, so phase 2, once we've gathered all this information and we have everything we need, now we need to realign their expectations with reality. So here's the thing. Look, they want their cake and they want to eat it too, right? And this is why they're bouncing around from wholesalers, is they're not getting their expectations met. They want close to retail most of the time, right? And of course, right, if we were selling a house, we want as much money as possible. But we use the anchor phase where we use low market data and recent comps, and we give them low ranges without committing to a price. And it's all speculative since we're the information gatherer. And it allows us to stay aligned with their interests, where I'm not arguing back and forth. I'm presenting data, and then I'm speculating on what the decision makers may be at for a real cash offer. So here's the beauty in this, right? We're evaluating this whole time as a cash offer, and you want your cash offer to be a cash offer that you're willing to move forward on if they say yes. Because this is the key. Their property is not a fit for a cash offer, because a cash offer is 50 cents on the dollar. So we're aligning their expectations with reality. And this also allows us to scorch the earth on the wholesalers that aren't being honest with them and presenting themselves as cash buyers when they have no intentions of ever being a cash buyer. Some of them are in their grandma's basement, sleeping on the couch, right? So we have to close all those doors before they're open to the hands-off solution. Because if they think in their mind still they can get a cash offer that's going to be 95% of retail, unfortunately, those days are over. You know what I mean? So we have to align their interests. And then the third phase is the delivery phase, which is the one that I was just speaking of, where we do the cash offer, but it's a tentative and it's a pull away. And then boom, the perfect solution that they qualified for, that our interests are 100% aligned on, and they're working with a team of experts. So cool.
Nice, man.
All right. So overview of the paperwork and the process. Okay, cool. So there's 3 main pieces of paper that we send out initially. Purchase agreement that's got all the language needed. We run through the whole purchase agreement with them. That's part of our closing process as well. That buys time for them to wrestle in their mind over it and also creates clarity. Because since this is different than me saying, I'm going to buy your house, where you can just run them through the paperwork and have them sign it without them reading it, we need to explain everything because a confused mind says no, right? And we have a specific way that we run through the contract every time. Okay, little third-party stories where we clarify. So we've got the purchase agreement, the novation indemnification agreement. That's basically lets them know what their net amount's going to be. And when they sign the new contract with the third-party buyer, they're not obligated to the terms of that contract. We take on those obligations and they basically are just promised their net amount. And then the third one, and actually I need to update this. This is from an old presentation. We no longer use a power of attorney. We use what's called an attorney in fact. It does not need to be notarized. It is docu-signed, and we only use it to hire the listing agent. So we don't sign the offer on behalf of the seller. The seller signs the buyer's offer. And we did for a long time where we would sign the offer on their behalf, but then we started getting pushback from certain lenders, and there were some deals that like almost blew up because of that. So we eliminated that process. If you have the seller sign the buyer's offer, the bank doesn't even know you exist. Do I always use a listing agent versus a flat fee? Great question. Yes. Here's the reason why. Okay. It's so much more scalable if you have a local expert that's your advocate. Okay. If you're using a flat fee, you're taking all the calls. Okay. You're filling out all the paperwork. You're working weekends. If you don't, your properties aren't going to get sold. I like working 9 to 5. I want my business to serve my lifestyle. I don't want to dedicate my life to making money. I make money so I can live a great life. Okay. And if you can delegate that to someone that's going to be better than you, if you're really good at speaking to the agents and find how to locate, motivate, and communicate with them, they're going to make your life so much easier. We can do 10, 15 deals a month with a very small staff because all the complicated stuff is delegated to experts. Okay. They're taking the late calls. They're sending out Form 44C, you know what I mean? When you're in the negotiation phase, they have all the local vendors, right? If you need a second opinion on a repair, you need something done. So the money that you give them, the agent, look at it this way. If the agent can save 1 deal a year, they pay for all the other agents, and they will. Great agents are worth every single penny. Now, crappy agents are not. And I don't work with mediocre agents. I have a way where I can find the best agent to sell my property in any market. Got a method, right? And we teach that in the Rainmaker group. But yeah, we've used flat fee and it sucked. Like you can.
Are they also willing to work commission only or?
Oh, the agents are completely commission only. Absolutely.
Okay, so that's really good.
Yeah, they only get paid when the deal closes, and if they can't pull it off, they're not getting anything. You know what I mean? But, once you understand what type of conversation you need to have and you call all the agents that have sold recently in the area, normally there's a clear front runner that's your best person. You'll have some agents that won't even pick up their phone. You'll have some that sound okay, some that sound good, a few that sounds great, and then there'll be 1 or 2 where you're like, this is the one. This is the one, right? And that's the one you want to pick because you want to work. If you get really good at finding the best person, then you don't have to micromanage. You can set the expectations and you can put that on autopilot.
It's kind of like hiring any team member, right? You want to hire a rock star that also fits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yep. So when we interview and hire the realtors, then we go over our listing strategy, right? Normally they'll get professional pictures. If there's some cleanup that needs to be done anyways, normally I'll take care of that first, right? Or if it's like, they got a bunch of stuff in the house, normally, because it's like, look, they got to move all their stuff out when the property's sold. Doesn't it make more sense to do it before we start trying to sell the house, right? You sell your car, clean the thing out. You know what I mean? You don't want cups sitting around in it and everything like that. So same with the house, we clean that up. But we also, when we're interviewing the agents, We also, every agent, we ask them, hey, in your expert opinion, where do you think this property needs to be priced where we can be certain we can get an offer in 3 weeks or less? And then you're crowdsourcing that, where you're talking 5, 6, 7 agents, right? Because you can't trust one agent's opinion. They can make it sound great and they don't even know what they're talking about, or they're just blowing smoke. So we crowdsource it with all the agents that we're interviewing so that we're certain that we can get the deal done, and we have realistic expectations before we start spending money, right? And that's another thing with flat fee, right? You throw it on the market and you come and find out, hey, someone walked the property and they're like, yo, did you guys know that there's dog poop everywhere? Like, what? No, they actually didn't mention that to me, right? Or, other things like that, right? And then you're putting the seller in a bad position because, if the property doesn't sell, guys, this is different than if you're dealing with a vacant house that's unlivable. These are people's lives. And you really have to have a heart of service to be able to ethically and sustainably do these deals and not be a bad person. So I only take on deals I'm certain I can get done. So I have a formula where we build in a minimum of a 30K spread. We don't try to do little deals with these, because the little deals can turn into no deal, or a deal where you're making a couple $1,000s and doing all this work. So we make sure early that we're correct on our numbers. And if we get consistent feedback that we're off on our numbers from the realtors, we renegotiate before we put it on the market. And sometimes they say yes, and because we explain, hey, because of X, Y, and Z that we weren't aware of, unfortunately, we have to make an adjustment for that. And sometimes they say no, and we lose the deal. But here's the thing, right? You could throw it on the market anyway and then renegotiate when they're backed in the corner, right? And your foot's on their neck. But that's not an ethical business practice. And if someone did that to your mom, you'd probably be pretty upset, right? So you definitely, because of how powerful these deals are, and because of the techniques we use and how effective they are, you have to make sure that you're wielding your power for the greater good, and you're not using these to be sleazy and unethical and take advantage of people. You want to make sure there's a true value exchange. And trust me, guys, there's enough deals out there. You can make a ton of money doing this completely ethical, where you don't have to do unethical stuff. Because here's the thing. When I see people teaching it the unethical way, I call it out, because I know if that happens enough, this is going to go away for all of us. So it's up to us. It's our responsibility to make sure we're doing the right thing, even if nobody's looking, right? So we list it. Once we get an offer accepted, the seller signs. Now, you can file a notice of interest or a memorandum or a lien to protect your interest. To be honest, 95% of the time now, we don't. The title company will allow us just to submit an invoice. The thing is, we don't have sellers get squirrely, because we give them a good experience. We move quick and we do everything that we say we will, right? So we just have the seller sign. We don't need a notice of interest, because here's the thing too. If the seller decides that they don't want to work with you, you're cooked. You've already lost the deal. So you need to prevent that by making sure you do what you say and you move quickly and you give them a good experience. Then of course, we have the inspection from the lender. We've got an appraisal. They'll give us what's called the preliminary settlement statement. And that's where we calculate our fee. We basically, deduct the A to C price, or the A to B price from the A to C price. We consolidate the difference and we make sure everybody gets paid the closing costs, the realtors, and whatever's left over, that's our fee that we invoice. And then we calculate the fee. If there was a lien, then we need to get that released, and the deal closes and we get paid as a line item on the HUD. Normally it's a marketing or consultation fee, a maintenance fee, maintenance and repairs. They word it different ways at different title companies. Okay, cool. So let's do some quick case studies, and then I want to make sure we have time to answer some questions here. All right. This deal, 760 Peninsula Overlook in Hampton, Georgia. Okay. This was one of the high-end houses in the golf community. This is not a wholesale deal at all. No way to make that work as a wholesale deal. Seller was in foreclosure. Okay. She's about to lose her house, and she had a decent amount of equity. She had 6 figures plus in equity, right? Basically my JV partner hit me up on Instagram. He was a new wholesaler. He worked a 9 to 5. The guy was in his 50s. Cool dude. He was in Georgia. He'd been trying to wholesale for 6-7 months. Hadn't even done his first wholesale deal yet. One of his buddies said, "Oh man, this looks like a Novation deal. hit up Novation King. So he DM'd me. We worked out a deal. He already actually had a buyer. So he'd been trying to sell it off market and he was calling agents, and the agent had a buyer that had a conventional loan. Okay. And he hit me up. He's like, hey, dude, I've got this deal. Looks like a fat deal, 6-figure spread. I already have a buyer. I just don't understand how novations work. And I want to make sure I don't fumble the bag on this. I want your guidance on this to make sure we get to the finish line. He's like, is there any way you can do a 25-75 split? Right. Because normally my split is different than that if we're actually closing the lead. I was like, cool. You got a buyer. This is a 6-figure deal, 25 grand to help you out. I'm game. Let's do it. Well, thing was, we went through 4 buyers. So the first buyer backed out because their parents didn't like the feng shui of how it was set up. It was part of their culture and it was just a no-go. It was dead. We had 4 other buyers, or 3 other buyers after that. And then our 4th buyer, we ended up listing it on the market, going through the buyer process. The time clock was ticking. This lady was about to lose her house. We did a BK in Georgia. And basically they didn't finish the filing so that it would be dismissed so we could sell the house. We ended up doing less than $2,000 in repair. I think we spent like $800 to fix some shingles on the roof. My boy Omar that lived in Georgia, he went out there and did some handyman stuff for like the outlets and a couple other small things. He went there on the weekend. But yeah, we ended up saving the house. I'll pull up the settlement statement here real quick. We saved the house. The lady had like $248,000 in equity that she got that she would have lost had we not stepped in. And you can see here, my boy Omar, he made $79,104. So I stayed true to my 25%, even though we ended up having to do way more work than I needed to. But this is what he was making in a year. He made that in one deal, and it was his first deal. This changed his life. It's incredible, right? And for me, it was a couple hours worth of phone calls. You know what I mean? I made 26 grand on it. You can see right here, MRW Ventures. So it's a win for everybody. The agents got paid. You can see here, look, there is what? 30 G's in commissions that went out. The title company got paid. The buyer got a house at a discount. It's a win-win for everybody. And then the seller, yeah, she walked away with $248,213. And she wouldn't have been able to pull this off with a regular agent, right? We went above and beyond on quite a few things. We helped her move, and there were several things that we helped out on. She signed the offer. She saw exactly how much we were making. She was extremely grateful because this was coming out of money where she was going to lose the house had we not stepped in. These people procrastinate. They don't understand how to do these things. So don't discount your expertise, right? They're not paying for the hours of your time that you spend with them. They're paying for all the hard work you put in to have that expertise to be able to guide them, right? Just like a doctor or a lawyer. You don't pay the lawyer $500 an hour because their time's so valuable right then. You pay them for the years that they went to law school and all the experience that they got. You're paying for their expertise. So yeah, that's one example. The second example, okay. So flat fee listing, check this out. So this guy hit me up on Instagram too. I'm big on Instagram. If you didn't notice, it's like my CRM basically. It was in Atlanta, but not Atlanta, Georgia, Atlanta, Texas. So I don't know how many of you have been to Atlanta, Texas. There's 5,400 beautiful people that live there. This guy actually worked for a wholesaler in Georgia that charges $17,000 for their Novation program. He was their acquisitions agent for over a year, and they did all local deals and they did all flat fee. He put this thing up on the flat fee, 3 weeks. He hit me up. He said, yo, I've got this deal, flat fee listing, explained who he was. I was like, okay, cool. Awesome. How many offers do you have? Oh, 0 offers. Okay. How many showings have you had? 0 showings. Whoa. Okay. How many phone calls have you had? 0 phone calls. I was like, whoa. Okay. This is obviously a problem because this looks like a decent deal, right? So I called the flat fee broker. The weirdest, creepiest voicemail ever. I don't know where they came up with it, but it was like, you call the flat fee. It's like, no one is here. Please leave a message. I'm like, whoa, no wonder no one's leaving a message. This seems like a straight up freaking scam, dude. This ain't it, bro. And I was like, look, this is why you hear me screaming from the mountaintops. Don't do the flat fee. Watch this, bro. Let's team up. Let's get this deal done. He's like, yeah, I'm game. I got nothing to lose. Okay, perfect. I got the sweetest lady that had just sold a house just like this. What was her name? I want to say it wasn't Gia. It's Gina. That's who it was. Gina Hugh, I believe. And got her on it. Sweetest lady, but she was a bulldog too. She was a beast. She was a G for sure. And we got brand new pictures because the pictures sucked too. Got brand new pictures, put it on the market. She had lived in Atlanta, Texas, like her whole freaking life. So she was like a figure there. So everybody knew her, and she actually had like shown the house previously. And the people had only owned the house for like 2 years or something. They had a personal situation where they had to move, right? And they didn't want to deal with anything. So we put it on the market and got an offer in, I think, 2.5 weeks. We started getting showings right away. And the seller actually moved out in the process of us showing the house and got into their new apartment. But this was a deal that was essentially dead in the freaking water. And we ended up making, and this one closed at the beginning of December. What did we make? I made a little bit more than him because I paid for a couple of things that he didn't pay for. So I was getting reimbursed. But basically, we both made 11 bands. So it was 22,000. That's after everybody got paid. And this is a dead deal. This was not a fix and flip. There's no cash buyer for this property. They had a problem that needed to be solved. We ended up helping them move. I think I spent a couple grand helping them out, but to spend a couple grand to make 11 grand, it's pretty good ROI, and it's a good thing to do anyways. They needed it. Like they had no money. So they didn't have money to pack their stuff up. They didn't have money to move. A realtor's not going to do that in most cases, maybe like a rock star realtor, but they didn't have the resources to find the realtor. They would have never called Gina. You know what I mean? They would have interviewed 10 people. They probably would have picked the realtor that from their buddy at church or their kid's grandson or something like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, we were able to step in and make it happen. So cool. So there's 2 case studies. Let's open this up. I'm sure there's probably some questions in here. And let's rock and roll. Let me kill my screen. I've got more case studies, but I think you guys get the point. And if there are no questions, then I'll pull up some more case studies.
Hey, Richard.
Yo.
Hey, I'm Rusty. I'm out of Arizona, and I actually just closed on my first Novation deal this week.
Let's go, Rusty, my brother. Awesome, dude.
Thanks. It was a huge headache. I'm not gonna lie. It was rough. We ran into some title issues, and so I kept having to just keep the seller even keeled. Had to just keep talking her off a ledge, and but we got through the title. I ended up having to go to the Superior Court to go file some documents to get that title situation taken care of. But the one thing I ran into yesterday when we were supposed to close was they switched it. I was going to sign everything. I had the POA all signed up. I was supposed to sign. I didn't file a lien, and so they were having issues trying to get me paid yesterday. And so she ended up signing. I mean, she ended up being the one signing. Everything was fine. She saw all the numbers. The numbers were obviously very good. But what have you guys implemented in that situation so that you can get paid? What does that look like? Because she wanted an invoice from me, but then she's like, hey, wait a second. We don't have a lien on the house. So we ended up filling out a payout station. What are you doing for that to get paid?
So one thing I would highly, highly recommend getting a Novation friendly transaction coordinator. So I use David Old's Easy REI Closings. But you need to have that. If you don't use a transaction coordinator, you need to have that conversation with the title company before you submit the deal and figure out what their novation process is. Because there will be certain title companies that will say, hey, look, we need you to do a lien in this state because of X, Y, and Z. And then ahead of time, right? So you need to plan that out first. But if you have a transaction coordinator, they already have a national database of all the title companies and they know the process. And then when you run into title issues and you got to file this and that, this is another thing. Like if you're good at closing deals, there's not really a task that's going to be a higher return on investment of your time. You want to spend as much time as possible bringing the deals in and not saving the deals from dying. And for me personally, I hate that, man. Playing medic, doing triage, And it's stressful, dude. Like, I love being the hunter and being the hero that gets the contract. I don't want to be the guy that's got to save everything from dying and watching people get their legs blown off. Like, no, you know what I mean? So I use a transaction coordinator, and it's super cheap too. If for like 1 to 5 deals, I think it's like $1,600 a month. So it's a couple $100 a deal for your time. Freaking worth it, dude. If they save you 1 deal a year, paid for the whole thing. But yeah, find out with the title company first. If you need to file a lien, get that handled. A lot of times the title company can help you with that. But normally you can just submit an invoice. But yeah, you don't want to find this out at the final hour either, because yeah, that's super stressful. If you're like, dude, I just did all this and I might not get paid, or if the seller goes AWOL. It's all about just setting your ducks up in a row. This is the challenging thing with Novations, is there's a lot of moving parts. And if you don't understand the blueprint, the way you learn these lessons is by everything going wrong and you pulling your hair out and stressing out, dude, and potentially losing deals. Like, dude, I won't lie, bro. I've lost a lot of deals over the years, especially in the beginning. You know what I mean? We had deals blowing up left and right. Like when I worked for Corey, there was a lot of things that we didn't know, but you know, you have to take action. There was no blueprint at that time. You know what I mean? But I would highly advise against signing the offer on the seller's behalf, because that will blow up your deal and it'll happen at the last freaking minute. And we had a deal that we actually had to get the buyer to get a brand new lender. And this was like a week before closing. Luckily, they really wanted the house and they were on board, but the lender saw the us signing for them. And they're like, look, seller, you need to sign this that says these guys are not getting paid inside of escrow or outside of escrow, or we ain't funding the deal. And they were like, luckily they were on board, right? So they were like, okay, yeah, buy lender, here's a new lender. And then we were able to pull it off. But after that, I was like, yo, never again. I'm not doing this. You know what I mean? This is too stressful. Give me the way that I know is fail safe. And if you have them sign every time and you set those expectations up front, that'll completely eliminate that problem.
Okay, nice. Yeah, it was a lender problem. So it's exactly what you're saying. And yeah, that this was a trial by fire for sure. And yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, for sure, bro. And you're taking action, dude. You miss all the shots you don't take. You know what I mean? But you know, you can, if you know the blueprint, it'll save you a lot of hassle for sure. Cool. Do we have any other questions?
Hey, Richard, I have a question for you, man.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? First, we are positive. You're an old Kirby guy. I'm sure you can appreciate the old positive statement. I was a factory distributor in Kirby for a long time. So that was the business I was in before this. But my question for you is, like, as I've talked to some of the people with Hessel, how do you guys handle it in markets or homes where the price point is so much higher? Like, for an example, if like I was talking to a Hessel, one of Esteban's clients, and they were looking at a property that was like a $1.2 million property. So just the commissions on that alone, even if we could get it at like 4.5%, 5%, like 2.5%, 2.5%, it was still looking at like a $50,000, $60,000 commission. And that's before any repairs, anything like that. How do you try and structure that into your pricing that you're giving the people when you're talking so much higher of a ticket property?
For sure. So here's the formula that we use, and it's pretty much across the board. So it's the first price you need to figure out is the as-is retail price. So the price that you can confidently say it will sell quickly for on the market. Now in a luxury home, right? Something above $1 million, even once you get above like 500,000-600,000, you need to look and see what the average days on market are, because yours needs to be on clearance for it to sell quickly. Big properties don't generally move fast, unless it's in a very desirable area or an area where all the properties are at that higher price point, somewhere like California, Seattle, certain parts of Florida, right? DC. So we got to understand, we're selling these quick. We're not trying to squeeze every penny out of it, because time will kill your freaking deal. It will kill it. It's going to piss off the seller. They're looking for a quick experience. So it's 90% of as is retail. And the reason it's only 90% of that is we want to build in room if there needs to be a discount. Also, it factors in for generally 6% commissions. At the higher price point, depending on the market, that may not be the standard, but I always pay whatever the standard commission is. I don't try to make my money by getting cheap with the realtor. I'm looking for an A player and I want to pay them well. That's my philosophy, abundant mindset. Look, I want the best and I'm going to pay you at least the normal. You know what I mean? You can't expect the best and try to get cheap with them, right? Because your deal is going to be the stepchild. So, minus 10% and then minus at least 30,000. Okay. Now, the good thing about these high end properties, right, is there's a lot more room for margin. 10% on $1 million house is $100,000. 10% on $100,000 house, you have to be at a much bigger discount if you're dealing with properties at a lower price point. But here's the beauty of it too. There's hardly ever any wholesale competition at these higher price point houses. They don't know what to do with them. And you have a more sophisticated seller, so they can smell the BS of the wholesalers better. And that's why we have a very professional, buttoned up process, because we present ourselves in a way where we can earn that trust. And we, because our sales process is low friction. It's not like, hey, we're buying houses in your area and we definitely want to buy yours. We're more evaluating them. It's much more congruent with reality. That's how real money moves. Real money doesn't beg. Real money evaluates. You know what I mean? And so our sales process is extremely effective with them. And those are fat deals. Like, dude, there's a guy, Gary Garcia in my group. He did a deal with it was like a $1.5 million house in California. $200,000 on the house. That was his take. And yeah, 200,000 on one deal. That's life-changing money, for most people. And if it's not, hey, you're already killing it. You know what I mean? But yeah, those higher price point houses, just realize this, it's going to be a slower process. You're not going to close that on 1 or 2 calls. You're going to need to work that and be patient, but the payoff is totally worth it. And you're going to set yourself apart from everybody else. And a lot of times those higher price point houses, you're dealing with a more sophisticated realtor that may have a really good network where you could even potentially still sell it off market, but to a retail buyer.
Yeah, totally understandable. My last question for you is, when you're negotiating and you're speaking to the seller, are you factoring in, I'm not sure what state you guys are, or how it changes per state, but are you covering every of the closing expenses, or is the seller still assuming responsibility for transfer tax, stuff like that?
Generally, we cover everything. Now there's certain states like Delaware where the transfer tax is crazy. I think it's 2% on each side or something like that. And if you're dealing with a high-end house, that's a lot of freaking money, right? But generally speaking, yes, we will. Now, in the paperwork, right, we do explain, hey, the only thing that's coming out of your net amount is going to be any mortgage, pre-existing debt, or taxes. Now, it gets into a gray area where the taxes could be considered, transfer tax could be considered a tax, or it could be considered a closing cost. In reality, it probably is a closing cost. I've heard of people, if the deal's tight, they push the transfer tax onto the seller rather than to renegotiate if it's significant. But normally, you want to do your negotiations up front, and then
Dígame, don Carlos, ¿cómo
have to
está?
pull the... Say what?
I think somebody took themselves off mute by accident.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, making sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah. You want to make sure that your offer's low enough that you can cover all that stuff, because you want to stay true to your word, and I don't like the little shiesty stuff of oh yeah, that's your transfer tax or anything you know what I mean?
It's easier to be upfront and honest with them, in my opinion. Sure. It's much easier to just be, here's what it is, and run with it. Thanks so much, man. I appreciate the answers.
For sure, my pleasure.
Maybe a question that I would like to ask, what's kind of the common challenges that you see people that come to you and ask questions, or students or yourself, when approaching Novations with this people that are putting cash offers out there, or just approaching Novations and all, the most common challenges, or the most frequent thing that, maybe you wouldn't think that could happen?
So trouble converting them. That's a big one. where they're getting the easy ones, they're getting the desperate people, but the ones where they know that there's a deal there, but it's a more sophisticated person they're having trouble with, right? That's one thing. Two, once they realize that flat fee brokers suck and it's not scalable, talking to the agents is another thing people have struggled with. How to have that conversation, how to format it, where basically they're stuck working with the agent that's willing to work with them rather than them positioning themselves as the high value player that they have the pick of the litter of all the agents, right? So that's all about how you have that conversation. That's another one. The third one is signing for the seller and having deals blow up from that, because you can get away with it. You can get away with it quite a bit. So that's the tricky part, is you're like, but dude, these other deals, it was fine. It's like, well, dude, like, yeah, sometimes it's going to be fine and sometimes it's not. And there's not really a good time for your deal to explode. You know what I mean? So I would say those are the main things: is the conversion, the flat fee, finding the realtors, and then handling the paperwork and everything like that.
All right, sounds good. Rich, and your favorite marketing channels for this type of leads, this type of deals?
Joint venture, any sort of incoming leads. Joint venture is the hottest because it's so pre-qualified. It's, you know what I mean? There's another wholesaler that's already talking to them and thinks it may be an opportunity. So they're the hottest of them all. And we can do 1 out of 3, 1 out of 5 sometimes with those. And people send us crap too, you know what I mean? But then we just have to realign their expectations on what it is that we're looking for. So joint venture is the best. PPC, social media, Facebook ads, all that are definitely any sort of marketing that is pre-sorted for motivation is the best. Motivation is the most important factor, not location, not condition, motivation, someone that wants to sell. So whether it's motivated cold call leads, social media, PPC, the motivation is the most important thing. So if you have a system to sort the most motivated people down into a funnel, that's your best bet. But like all the honestly, it's more about the person than like the source, because every marketing channel has its pluses and minuses. You know, incoming is the hottest leads, but they're also the most expensive. You know what I mean? And you know, it's all about getting in touch with the motivated people. So the lead source, you just want to find something that's efficient and working with A players like Hensel Media.
All right.
Big shout
Hey,
out.
Rich, with your JV deals that you're doing, Rich, are you doing those where, like, do you prefer to have it where, I'm not sure if you're doing the acquisition stuff or you have acquisitions team under you, but do you prefer to do it where the person that brings you the lead is on the call with you guys for that initial conversation, or are they literally turning the lead over and you guys are just running with it at your pace then?
So I've got 4 closers and 2 lead managers, and then I work the deals myself as well. But we do what's called a warm handoff. So when they submit the lead, we look at the lead, we identify the best opportunities and make those priorities. Then we call the JV partner, gather any extra information that wasn't submitted. And then we have the JV partner call the seller with us on 3-way and do what we call a warm handoff. So they don't prep them at all beforehand. They don't say, hey, I've got my partner I'm going to be calling with. They just freaking call them. And it's best if it's not under contract already. If it's just a hot lead that looks like an opportunity, we want them to negotiate on the cash offer side, right? So we can kind of see where the boundaries are. But basically, we have them back out. They say, hey, Mr. Seller, you know, I was able to get a final decision. You know, we're taking a look at quite a few properties right now. And unfortunately, we don't think this one's going to be a match. We'd have to be a lot lower than where you want to be. However, you know, I have my colleague Rich on the phone, and the company he works with has a different business model than us. And sometimes they can make deals work that aren't a fit for us. He just had a few questions to see if they might be able to make an offer. And then here's the beauty of it, right? And as a Kirby guy, you can appreciate this, right? How just like when you door knock, right?
It's a lead in, dude. You're doing a lead in.
Yeah.
It's a lead in.
I'm showing back up at the door with my new guy that's about to do a presentation, rather than me say, hey, I'm going to go get my new guy and he's going to present. No, I just come back with him and he's already there and they let him in. You know what I mean? So you'll get a much higher conversion. You won't have people ghosting you. And it also sets me up for a fresh start where I'm evaluating them. I'm not begging them. He's not saying, hey, Rich is definitely going to make an offer, right? And it's also the subtle subconscious thing of these guys don't want the property. They need to be way lower. It's a rejection in a way, right? But I'm right there. And then we have the highest conversion handing them over like that. We've tried it a bunch of different ways over the years. This way works the best. So they basically back out and then we enter the picture, and then I can run them through my 3 phases from that point.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Yeah, for sure.
I got a question. First off, I just want to say I'm part of your mastermind. It's amazing. I'm still going through it. There's loads and loads of content in there. So just want to vouch for that. The question that I had, yes, sir. Yes, sir. The question that I had is if a wholesaler brings you something that's already under contract, how are you kind of smoothing that process of getting them the new agreements and indemnification attorney in fact? Because I'm sure it can be a little bit sketchy when they've already signed something and now they have to sign something again.
It is. You have to have, unfortunately, because normally when they bring me those deals, they normally bring it when their contract's about to run up, right? Because they try to do everything they can to keep the deal themselves. And then as a last resort, they'll have us come in and save the day, and they're willing to split it at that point because it's about to die. So you have to do a similar thing where they back out and you're the perfect solution, where, you have to make sure the numbers are good too, because you can't run them through a whole 3-phase process. Like the numbers have to already work for Novation for that to be a fit. But basically they call in and you say, hey, I have an important update here. I have my colleague Rich on the phone, and, he's got some information for you. And basically I tell them, hey, look, Nick tapped me on the shoulder. They had, basically there's not an easy way to say this, but they've been running through their process, and, there's a situation going on where they had everything lined up, and unfortunately some things ended up falling through. And normally at this point, most companies would just back out per the inspection period and just release you from the contract, and you'd be back to square one. Nick actually tapped me on the shoulder because our company has a different business model than them. And I think, an opportunity where we're not going to have to reduce any price with you, and we're still going to get you the result that you're looking for. Let me explain how this works. So it's a touchy situation, right? These don't convert as well as a fresh deal, right? Because it is kind of a crappy situation, but normally a lot of times the people are desperate at this point, you know what I mean? And they are open to that rather than starting from square one. And then I'll do like the concierge pitch. But if you look in the training, I believe there's actually a video of a deal that we did like that in Peoria, Arizona. And this was a deal I think we ended up making like 35 racks on, like 35K. Right. And it was a wholesale deal that didn't work out. And I think the JV partner did a little bit more of a lead in than I did in this example, where they kind of explained some of that their partner fell out and they kind of pulled the rug out from underneath them. They're just like blaming like a third party. And then they introduced me as the solution. But then you basically have to very quickly switch that into your normal Novation pitch, where you explain the concierge service, hands-off solution. And on that call, you need your paperwork already written up, because it needs to go from sell the sizzle to disclose and close as quickly as possible. Because if you're on that phone for too long, they're going to beat you up, run a bunch of questions, and then they're going to be cooked for the day. And you're never going to get to the paperwork. So it's not something where you can call, talk to them, and then call back with the paperwork. You need it ready to go, and you need to sell the sizzle and then disclose and close and run them through it. But I mean, I would say probably about half of those we're able to pull off, and the other half they tell us to kick rocks.
Okay, cool. All right, I appreciate that. Do you think it would be under the boot camp recordings or the bonuses, or?
It's under the. I can check. DM me on Instagram and I'll show you. But I think it's labeled as like converting a wholesale to Novation. It's me. I'm sitting in bed for it. I'm talking on the phone in bed, so you'll know it's that one. But yeah.
Okay, cool. I appreciate it.
Okay, and I do have another call in like 15 minutes, so I maybe can answer like one One more question.
Mika had his hand raised. He's kind of like the kid at school that it's kind of like this and no one pays attention to.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Apparently
Well,
we
let's
don't do
take
that
care of
here.
him.
Hey man, big fan. I just want to say I appreciate your ethics and how you do stuff. It's really, really refreshing. I have a question about your social media, which I've been following for a while. You posted a deal the other day. It was like a $3 million deal. And with that guy, you pitched like all three options. You were like, we could do option A, wholesale deal. Option B, I think was the novation. Option C was like a seller finance or subject to type of deal. You don't normally take that route, I don't think. And why did you go that way with that one? I was wondering.
You know what it was? He was in foreclosure and he had like a month before they were going to like take his house. So I already knew novation probably wasn't going to be it. There wasn't enough room in there to do a off-market deal because he had only he like bought the house like a year ago. I think this is like a house in like Dallas or Houston or something. I remember this one.
Yeah.
He didn't have much equity. He like bought it. He put $500,000 down, made one payment, and then didn't make any payments for a year. So, and his mortgage was a high interest rate. It was like $30,000 a month. So I had to present the options to kind of see what he was open to, and also to present them and then eliminate the ones that I didn't think would work. But you're right. No, normally I wouldn't do that. Normally, if I'm throwing out feelers like that, there's not like kind of a clear exit strategy that I'm pushing them towards. So I'm just firing some tracer bullets and seeing what hits and see how they respond before I dive deeper into it. Because I don't want to try to get like this long subject to pitch, right? And then he's like, oh yeah, there's no way I would do that. So I kind of tentatively present it and see if they want to hear more. So yeah, that was a unique situation. But yeah, normally I wouldn't hit it like that, because when you present it as an option, it's too confusing and it's not as compelling as the perfect solution.
Okay, cool. I just been curious since I saw it. I loved the call. And someone else
and we didn't end
asked-
up getting that deal either. So
you didn't?
Nah, bro.
Oh, okay. He seemed to really
another
like
wholesaler
the
signed it, but I think the guy's going to lose his house, honestly, because I don't think they're going to be able to move it.
Bummer. So someone else asked a question that says, does the property have to have a lot of equity? And I thought that was a good question.
There needs to be enough equity for you to make your fee and pay everybody. But no, sometimes there's a lot of equity and sometimes there's not. I mean, as long as it's enough to cover where you need to be, because a lot of times these guys are in a situation where they don't have equity just because they haven't paid into the house enough. You know what I mean? And some of these will be newer properties where they bought them a couple years ago, but they've had some appreciation. So there's enough equity for you to do what you need to do. But yeah, it's on a case by case. As long as there's enough to cover what you need, that's fine. You know, if the seller, if you can get them to agree to it, then it's, then it's a fair deal.
Awesome. That's all from me.
Cool.
Appreciate you a lot.
Thank you, guys. And hey, definitely Esteban, appreciate you. You've got an awesome group here. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day. If you need anything, feel free to hit me up. And I'll probably give Esteban a coupon code exclusively for you guys, where you can get, if you want to check out novationking.com, it's got more information about what we do. We've got the Rainmaker community that Juan's in and a couple other guys in here are already in, where we do, network training. We do live training, call reviews. We've got the course that lays out the whole blueprint, has all the paperwork, real seller calls, live videos. Follow me on Instagram. You can get a lot of game just from watching that. It's totally free. If you want to do any deals with me and my team, novationjv.com. Doesn't cost you a penny, and you'll actually make money off of a dead lead. So again, thank you, Nick. I'll make a coupon code for everybody where it'll be like a stupid discount. And you can also do it on a payment plan. If you're actively wholesaling, which I'm guessing all of you are, since you're in here, is if you add this into your arsenal, there's hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars in additional deals you can be doing this year. This is the year of the novations. Wholesale as much as you can, but the ones that don't work for wholesale, hit them with the Rainmaker Novation. Let's go.
Let's go. All right, guys. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, everyone. I have an announcement to make. So before you guys leave, love to give you guys an announcement. All right. So,
Cool.
all right. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. For the REIpreneurs community and the hustle media community, we at Remote Latinos community as well, we're going to bring up a few other speakers throughout the year. And there's one guy that I want you guys to get some value out of him, and he builds remote call centers. So he's an expert in putting together remote cold caller outbound marketing platforms, so that you guys can put together your own in-house mini call center for your company, but learn what are the all the process and the intricacies of it, and how to take a cold caller or an outbound specialist, plug and play into your own systems, and ultimately build a remote call center. And we're going to have a masterclass. The announcement is going to be coming out very soon. That is going to teach you how to build your own remote call center. You can use outbound specialists from Latin America, from Philippines, Asia, doesn't really matter. But you guys are going to be able to have like an entire step-by-step process on how to build your own outbound marketing channel as well, because we're a firm believer that when you combine both outbound and inbound, you get the most out of both channels. You learn how to deal with two different type of leads, and you make more money, right? So we're going to have that remote call center masterclass or outbound marketing, building your own marketing platform masterclass, and can't wait to do that. I think it's going to be by the end of this month. So if you guys join that, that'll be amazing. And if you guys haven't followed us in social media, follow us in social media as well, because we're going to also be giving some goodies in there. All right, guys. So thank you for all coming in here, and hope you guys have an awesome Thursday. It's Contract Friday tomorrow. It's Contract Saturday on Saturday. So hope you guys get to close more deals, go to low hanging fruits, reactivate some leads, see what you can actually get from your pipeline, apart from generated leads, generating opportunities, and let's close more deals. All right, guys. Take care.